So today we're going to export some Substance Painter textures from our sword, at least my sword. You're going to do your own. Excuse me. So to do that, let's take a look inside of here. So we have our textures all set up, and I'm not saying this is brilliance. It's just a fast sword for you all to look at and to use for your class here. So I'm going to go to front and take a look at that. Our front, there's no front here, right? So when we export stuff out of Substance Painter, we want to make sure that our textures are set up for the software, the game software, for example, we're going to go into. So the first thing I do, because if I don't do this first, I always forget. Excuse me. Goodness. So I'm going to go ahead and just export them straight into my week 12 new folder. We'll call it texture. What we'll call it S_textures. Okay, enter. Double click. All right, so as textures, we'll select that folder. I'm going to save it as, you know what? I like to save them as targets to start with, and we can export them to JPEGs or or PNGs later. But let's talk about that. So I've set that up. I've set the default to 2840 or 2048 for both of them. Infinite dilation. I'm not a real big fan of it, so I'll just do transparent dilation, and I'll talk about that as we do one. Now it's set up by default to this what's called metal rough PBR, but if you click on that, you'll see that you get a much more options. We're going to actually look at standard metallic for Unity 5, okay, because that's what we're going to be working with this time. So, and when we do that, it doesn't look like it's changed anything. And notice the one thing I want to tell you is that it's named itself after the name of the object. So before we go any further, I'm going to cancel out of here real quick, go over to here and rename this real quick. I'm going to name this Gladius Patina, sure. Okay. So there we go. Now you can change that. And then if I come back in here to Control Shift E, by the way, is the export button. And you can see it says it right there. Export textures. So I've got this back. And now you'll see it says Gladius Patina. So if you want to control the name of it, that's what it's going to do. Infinite, obviously put it back to where we were. That's the problem with doing it second. So I'm going to do the transparent. And then I'm going to change this to where I just was, which is STextures. And then I'm going to change it to Substance 5 Metallic. So when we do that, if you open up this texture set, you'll see what we get is the name of our object, the name of the object, the name of we've given it, and the albedo, transparent, and then metal smoothness, and normal, and emission. So we get 4 textures. The actual homework is you need to have a couple more textures. So we're going to show you how to make that happen and maybe even do some other fun stuff while we're in here. So to do that, let's go ahead and go to configuration. Okay, and you'll see inside here, just like the list when I did that drop down, these are all right there listed. Some of these I've made by default. I'll just do some tests, but like if we come here to standard metal, we'll see that right here it says everything it's going to export and how it exports it. And we can get into this at some point, but really for right now, I just want you to understand that you can change these out and make them your own. But you don't want to change the master one, so what we can do is just push this copy button and then change the name of this to Melons, I will say sword export. There we go. So we'll call it sword export. And you see nothing's changed in here. It has all the same stuff that we had before. We want to add a height map to it and an AO map to it. So how do we do that? Well, if we come to any of the other ones that have height or AO on them, so let me find one that does. Key shot might, roughness, reflection, normal. No, it's I'm sorry, I haven't done all of these, but there's that, there's that. Height, emissive, there's height. Okay, and you see it's this green one right here, which is black and white. That's what that is, and I'll show you how to do that. And then, actually, I think we can just copy this. Yeah, but we're not going to do it that way. And then the other one we want is AO. And I don't think these have AO in them. But let me show you that. Let me find an AO here. Spec, normal, missive, engine. There's AO. And you can see, again, it's a GR, which stands for gray scale. And then green, which means it's coming to our mixed AO. Okay? It's a little bit different than this green, which is that one. So let's go back to ours and see how we can make that same stuff happen on ours. Well, we saw that it was a gray texture, so we can click on this button right here. Okay. We saw that it had a green color on it, and we looked at where it said mixed AO. So when you select this, it means it's going to make a grayscale texture. And I'm going to grab, just click and drag AO to here, and then we'll call it from mixed AO. Oops. From gray channel, and it comes in like that. So we want a gray channel, and we'll test it to make sure I'm not wrong. Then we still want the height map, so we can do that by saying it's another gray texture, remember, and then we're going to say height and drag it onto here, and again from the gray channel. So we've got those two set up to export. Now, let's talk about these names. By default, it's going to give you the mesh name, which is not the name we just named it, texture set. So I'm going to actually delete that. And I'm just going to grab this right here, because I'm going to use that to put it to our other ones that we just made by default. So I'm going to take that out. So now it's just going to name it what I named it inside the texture set. And then I'm going to come over here and go paste. So it says starts with that, and it's going to be AO. And then I'll take this one and say paste, and I'll say HEIGHT. Okay, so now I've got all 6 textures that I need to export set up into my sword export, my custom one. And now all I have to do is go back to export and change it. And the great thing is when you make a new texture, it's always at the bottom. So if you scroll all the way up and you go to the bottom, there it is. And you'll see we have all our stuff done. We'll see that it's going to a ping still, so I'm going to go back to Targa. And just like them. They have the separated alpha is really the big reason. Padding is fine. Padding is the gap between anything that it renders. Okay, and I'll show you. So we're going to say export, and it's going to go ahead and send all this stuff over. I'll open up Photoshop while it's doing it. I didn't have any emissions, so we may get an error for that. And you can see some of these like that. And we can just go open the folder, and we'll open up that folder, of course, on my other screen. I'm gonna go back to Photoshop, and I'm gonna open that folder again. I'm gonna grab all these, and I'm gonna drag it into Photoshop. Just drag it. And we'll see what we get. Okay. So this is our normal map. It's baked, and you'll see it's named Gladius Patina Normal. And if we come over here to Albedo Transparency, here's the color thing. And if we come over here to AO, here's the AO map that we made. And here's the height map. It's based on what I did. And the big deal about this height map is it's actually not the height from what we want. And we'll take a look at how we can make that happen. And here's the metal smooth. That's it. That's all we do. That's the only extra thing that you haven't learned so far. And like I told you, it was really fast. And now we have it all done. And I have all these exported exactly, almost exactly as I want them. And they're ready to go into Unreal or Unity in this case. There's some stuff that's going on with the normal map. But again, it was a fast model. And there's a couple things we could fix on that. But I'm not worried about it. It's your first foray into Substance. So we're just going to live with what we have for today. Yours probably aren't this way anyway. So that's it. A really fast, like I said, a really super fast one. And we are done. And I will see you on the other side.